Leviticus 25, 1 through 17. Jubilee and Rest. Pastor in Cho. The Israelites who left Egypt are now heading towards Canaan. God gave them several laws to follow when they entered Canaan, and the book that recorded those laws is Leviticus. Among the laws that the Israelites had to observe in Canaan, there were feasts, and among them there were feasts related to the Sabbath. There are 3 feasts related to the Sabbath: the Sabbath year, and the Jubilee. Leviticus 23 records the Sabbath, and Leviticus 25 records the Sabbath year and the Jubilee. The feast related to the Sabbath is associated with the number 7. The Sabbath is the 7th day for rest after 6 days of work. The Sabbath year is the 7th year for rest after 6 years of work. The Sabbath rests all day on the 7th day, and the Sabbath year rests for all year in the 7th year. The important point in Sabbath year is that the land is rest. Verses 3 to 4. For 6 years sow your fields, and for 6 years prune your vineyards and gather their crops. But in the 7th year your land is to have a Sabbath of rest, a Sabbath to the Lord. Do not sow your fields or prune your vineyards. In this way, the Israelites must work hard for 6 years in Canaan and let the land rest in the 7th year. Why did God give this Sabbath year? This is because when the soil rests, the nutrients increase and the crops will be better later. If the land does not rest, it will no longer be able to grow crops using all its nutrients. Also, when the land rests, the people of Israel can have a deeper communion with God. They should have fellowship with God 1 day a week, and should have fellowship with God 1 year for every 7 years. To have fellowship with God means to confess, give thanks, and worship that God is the owner of the land. They must not forget that Canaan is a land given by God. So, God wanted them to give up their greed. Working non-stop is greed. Working all week, working 7 years is greed. So, God told the Israelites that He will be responsible for food, so they should not worry about food and take a year off and fellowship with God. So, the Sabbath year is a year to acknowledge God's absolute sovereignty. The Sabbath year has another meaning. Verses 5 through 7. Do not reap what grows of itself, or harvest the grapes of your untended vines. The land is to have a year of rest. Whatever the land yields during the Sabbath year will be food for you, for yourself, your manservant, and maidservant, and the hired worker and temporary resident who live among you, as well as for your livestock and the wild animals in your land. Whatever the land produces may be eaten. This meant that no one sowed or nurtured the seed, but grains and grapes spontaneously grew. Of course, God did this. Why? Grains and grapes grown during the Sabbath year were food for the poor, because they had no owners. Of course, anyone could eat it, but God made Sabbath year especially for the poor. Therefore, the Sabbath year was a season to practice love for neighbors. The Israelites should love their neighbors on a regular basis, but they should practice their love for their neighbors more in the Sabbath year. As such, the spirit of the Sabbath year is love of God and love of neighbor. But God in addition gave a feast called the Jubilee. The Jubilee is an extension of the Sabbath year, which is the year after every 7 Sabbath years, the 50th year. Verse 8. Count off 7 Sabbaths of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the 7 Sabbaths of years amount to a period of 49 years. The Jubilee, just like the Sabbath year, gave rest to the land, and grains and grapes grew spontaneously to the poor. Verse 11. The 50th year shall be a Jubilee for you. Do not sow, and do not reap what grows of itself, or harvest the untended vines. But there is something special about the Jubilee. At the time of the Jubilee, the servants returned to their houses. Verse 10. Consecrate the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a Jubilee for you. Each one of you is to return to his family property, and each to his own clan. Verse 13. In this year of Jubilee, everyone is to return to his own property. To proclaim liberty means to give freedom to all slaves. In other words, those who were sold as slaves to other people's houses, because they are poor, were set free in the Jubilee. Also, in the year of Jubilee, people must give back the land. When you enter Canaan, you will be allocated land by tribe and family. If your family is too poor, you can sell the land to others. However, in the Jubilee year, the person who bought the land must simply return the land to its original owner. At this time, there is a principle when buying and selling land. When buying or selling land, people always have to calculate how many years are left in the Jubilee, and they must set the price of the land according to the number of years remaining in the Jubilee. If there are more years remaining, the land price goes up, and if there are fewer years remaining, the land price goes down. Verses 15 through 16. You are to buy from your countryman on the basis of the number of years since the Jubilee, and he is to sell to you on the basis of the number of years left for harvesting crops. When the years are many, you are to increase the price, and when the years are few, you are to decrease the price, because what he is really selling you is the number of crops. The reason why the number of years before the next Jubilee is calculated is because anyone could claim their ownership of land only for that amount of years left. So when the Jubilee year comes, all the land will return to its original owner, so people are not greedy for the land. So, the Jubilee is a system that abolishes the discrimination between the rich and the poor. Buying land does not make you rich forever, and selling land does not make you poor forever. In the Jubilee, the rich give their land back, and the poor get their land back. So the Jubilee is a year when people and the land enjoy freedom and liberation. The Jubilee year means ram, and the name was given because a trumpet made of ram's horns was blown in the Jubilee. In the Jubilee, the priests blew their lamps to proclaim freedom and liberation of man and land. This freedom and liberation is rest. When the Sabbath that comes every 7 days come together for 7 years, it becomes a Sabbath year. And when the Sabbath years that come every 7 years come 7 times, it becomes a Jubilee. Therefore, the Jubilee is the Sabbath of the Sabbaths and the Sabbath year of the Sabbath years. The Jubilee is the best Sabbath. The Sabbath and the Sabbath year look forward to the Jubilee. The spirit of the Sabbath and Sabbath year is fulfilled in the Jubilee. So what does this Jubilee mean for us today? Do we have to celebrate the Jubilee today that the people of Israel in the Old Testament times observed? We must know exactly the meaning of rest. However, there is a limit to knowing the meaning of rest through the Old Testament. Since we have been given the New Testament, we need to know the New Testament in order to know exactly the meaning of rest. What is the most important word in the New Testament regarding rest? Matthew 12:8. For the Son of Man is Lord of Sabbath. What does this mean? In the Old Testament times, the Sabbath year, and Jubilee look forward to Jesus Christ. So, Jesus said to the people at the time, Matthew 11:28, Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. This means that only Jesus can give people true rest. Jesus quoted the prophet Isaiah and said, Luke 4:16-17, He went to Nazareth where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom, and he stood up to read. The scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written. What did the prophet Isaiah say? Luke 4:18-19. The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for his prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to release the oppressed, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. The year of the Lord's favor, mentioned here, is the year of the Jubilee. The prophet Isaiah spoke of a Jubilee of freedom and liberty for the poor, the captives, the blind, and the oppressed. However, the prophet Isaiah prophesied that the Jubilee would be fulfilled in the future through the Messiah Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ actually fulfilled the Jubilee. So, Jesus said this about the prophecy of Isaiah, Luke 4:21. And he began by saying to them, Today the scripture is fulfilled in your hearing. This means that the Jubilee has already been fulfilled for those who are hearing Jesus' words at that time. Who fulfilled the Jubilee? Jesus fulfilled the Jubilee. However, the prophet Isaiah was not the first to prophesy about the Jubilee. The Jubilee was already mentioned in Leviticus by Moses, who lived 700 years before Isaiah. Therefore, Leviticus is a book of prophecy about Jesus Christ who will come to this world to fulfill the Jubilee. Leviticus is not a difficult, boring book. It is a book about Jesus Christ. So, what is the Jubilee? The Jubilee is a year of freedom and liberation. Therefore, Jesus came into this world to give people freedom and liberation, and actually gave them freedom and liberation. But this freedom and liberation is rest. Jesus came into this world to give people rest. Then, freedom and liberation from what? And rest from what? As prophesied by the prophet Isaiah, Jesus actually fed the poor, casted out demons, healed many sick people, and even raised the dead. Jesus gave rest to those who really needed it. But this is not the essence of rest. The rest that Jesus fulfilled is a greater rest. The rest that Jesus fulfilled is freedom and liberation from sin and death. Saving man from sin is the ultimate rest that Jesus gives. At the Jubilee, those who were slaves to other people's houses were set free and returned to their own homes. All human beings became slaves to sin and death because of Adam's original sin. You and I are no exception. However, since Jesus saved us from sin and death through death on the cross and resurrection, the salvation is the greatest rest that Jesus gives us. Why was the Jubilee declared on the 10th of July? Verse 9. Then had the trumpet sounded everywhere on the 10th day of the 7th month, on the day of atonement. Sound the trumpet throughout your land. The 10th of the 7th month is the day of atonement, when the high priest can go into the most holy place to offer the atoning sacrifice to God. When the day of atonement occurs 50 times, it becomes the Jubilee. Therefore, the death on the cross and resurrection, Jesus saved us from sin, death, and gave us the ultimate rest. Therefore, the Jubilee is a day of atonement of the days of atonement. However, by accomplishing this atonement through the death on the cross and resurrection, Jesus saved us from sin and death and gave us the ultimate rest. Also, in the year of Jubilee, the land returned to its original owner, which is a shadow foreshadowing that the believer will acquire the heavenly inheritance, that is, the land, because of Jesus. 1 Peter 1:3-4. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. In his great mercy he has given us new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that can never perish, spoiled or fade, kept in heaven for you. Therefore, we who have been saved from sin and death through faith in Jesus Christ are already enjoying the Jubilee, and are those who will receive the land of heaven. As Jesus said, the Jubilee has been fulfilled for us. However, the Jubilee is not yet finalized. The Jubilee is fully fulfilled on the day of Jesus' second coming. Hebrews 4:9. There remains, then, a Sabbath rest for the people of God. The fact that there is still time to rest means that the final rest will be fulfilled in heaven when Jesus returns. But while we live in this world, we must also enjoy rest. Rest is ours because we have already entered Canaan by believing in Jesus. How then can we specifically enjoy rest in this world? First, we must cherish Sunday. In the Old Testament, the Sabbath, Sabbath year, and Jubilee were changed to Sunday through the death on the cross and resurrection of Jesus. So today, Sunday is Sabbath. Sunday is the day God allows us to enjoy rest in this world. Therefore, those who have attained the rest of salvation and the land of heaven through Jesus, the Lord of the Sabbath, must cherish the Lord's Day, the day of Jesus. To cherish the Lord's Day means to cherish worship on the Lord's Day, because worship gives us true rest. Some say attending the Lord's Day worship is tiring, so they find rest in the world. However, it is not the Lord's Day worship that is tiring, but their lives that are tiring. Those who truly believe in and confess Jesus as the Lord of faith receive rest through worship. God always gives rest of body and soul to those who cherish the Lord's Day. Second, in order to enjoy rest, we must love our neighbors. In particular, we must not turn away from our poor neighbors in need. In the Jubilee, the grains and grapes of the field belong to the poor, so we have to help the poor in need. Also, we must not deceive our neighbors. Verse 14, if you sell land to one of your countrymen or buy any from him, do not take advantage of each other. When the Israelites bought and sold land, they accurately counted the remaining Jubilee years so no one would suffer a loss. There is no need to keep the Jubilee literally today. It is not biblical today to take the richest land and give it to the poor by taking the Old Testament Jubilee literally. However, the spirit of the Jubilee, that we should take care of our neighbors in need, especially not to deceive our neighbors, still holds true. God said this about the spirit of the Jubilee. Leviticus 19:18. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against one of your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Jesus said to love your neighbor as yourself. Leviticus is by no means a difficult, boring book. If you read Leviticus through Jesus Christ, Leviticus is a book that gives us great rest. Do you cherish the Sabbath, the Lord's day? Do you enjoy true rest through the Lord's day worship? Do you love your neighbors as yourself? Do you not deceive your neighbors? True rest is not given through special actions or methods. I pray that you and I will enjoy the true rest of the Jubilee day by day, cherishing the Lord's day and loving our neighbors.